Before we drop into the madness, say hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. And if this story blows your mind, share it with a mate who's just as weird as you.
They thought we were just another stubborn mammal species that got lucky with thumbs and nukes. That was their first mistake. The second, asking to see our war history. This was supposed to be a diplomatic exercise, a cultural exchange, before the mock battle began. The Kindari High Command had gathered in Observation Room Delta, surrounded by a half-dozen other allied species, all of them curious to dissect what made humans tick. Or rather, what made us twitchy, unpredictable, and irritatingly hard to eradicate. General Solith of the Dravax opened with a smirk and said, "Let us review the Terran archive. I'm sure it will be enlightening." "No," I muttered under my breath. "It'll be a warning." The lights dimmed, the first video flickered on. A muddy wasteland. Craters, smoke, blood. 2 human soldiers, barely more than kids, were pinned down. One had lost an arm, the other was using a helmet as a shovel. No background music, just screams and artillery. The Dravax delegation laughed. Laughed. "Crude tactics," one of them said. "No strategy, only chaos." But they weren't watching closely. The kid with the helmet wasn't digging a trench. He was burying his friend mid-battle while returning fire. That got them quiet. Next clip, Jumble Warfare. A human squad is ambushed, and instead of retreating, they charge. Not because they had superior numbers, because one of them was wounded and they refused to leave anyone behind. I watched a Kindari officer twitch when the humans used their own blood to mark a trail for medics. "They bleed, willingly," he muttered. Then came the siege footage. Starving humans in a bombed-out city, boiling leather boots for calories, fighting with metal pipes when ammo ran dry. One soldier is shot through the chest, keeps fighting for 6 minutes before dropping. Another drags him back after the shooter is already dead. "Are they glitched?" someone whispered. "No," I said. "That's just Tuesday." But the turning point wasn't gore. It was the smiles. Footage of a wounded human surrounded by corpses, laughing as he lights a cigarette with a burning vehicle behind him. "They find joy in this?" a Teslan diplomat whispered. A Kravenite general leaned forward and said, "What kind of species laughs after losing everything?" I answered before the clip did. The kind that doesn't lose, quietly. The room had gone dead silent. No one moved, no one spoke. Except to the human liaison in the corner, who quietly crossed his legs, sipped his coffee, and said, "Still want to run that simulation." They didn't cancel the war games right away. That would have made them look weak. Instead, they asked for additional context. So we gave it to them. Footage queued up from the Kyriev offensive. Humans trapped behind enemy lines for 12 days without food or backup. What did they do? Fashioned weapons from drone parts and set tripwire traps using their own shoelaces and bone fragments. Bone fragments. By day 7, they'd started broadcasting fake radio signals to screw with the enemy's supply routes, while down to 2 working rifles. "This is not combat," the Zendari commander growled. "This is madness." "No," I said. "This is what happens when you corner a species that once chased mammoths off cliffs for fun." The next feed showed medics in the Dust Reaper conflict. Battlefield surgeons sewing wounds closed with fishing wire, cauterizing arteries with heated gun barrels. One alien fainted, just slid off his seat like a dropped coat. The Kravenite General Threxen demanded we stop the footage. "You're glorifying death," he shouted. I just raised an eyebrow. "We're not glorifying it. We survived it." But the final straw? That came next. Footage from the Scar Hollow extraction. Zero visibility, acid rain, radiation off the charts. A human squad makes a blind run to rescue a crashed pilot. They reach the wreck, find the pilot's dead. Most species would call it and leave. Humans? They strap the corpse to a gurney and drag him back anyway. "Why?" the Tessalan ambassador croaked. "He's already gone." The human commander replied in the recording, voice raw. "Because his mother's waiting." That broke something in them. You could feel it. The psychic shift in the room. One Zendari cadet started sobbing uncontrollably. Another stood up, trembling, and walked out. Then another, and another. Within 10 minutes, a third of the observation deck was empty. A Cravenite aide threw his comms badge on the floor and muttered, "I resign." General Threxon stood up slowly. "You weaponize grief," he said. "You use pain as fuel." I nodded. "Correct." He shook his head. "You don't fight like predators. You fight like revenge incarnate." I grinned. Flattering, but unnecessary. We're just really bad at giving up. The final shot in the montage wasn't combat. It was aftermath. A ruined Earth city, smoldering rubble, ash in the air. Children building a soccer goal out of tank parts. Laughter. One of the alien diplomats turned to me, voice hollow. How do you keep going?" I looked him dead in the eyes. Because for us, hope is more dangerous than fear. And we've always been armed to the teeth. The room went quiet again. Not from awe this time. From sheer, instinctual terror.
The Wargame Committee reconvened behind closed doors.
3 hours later, we were summoned. This time, no audience. Just us and the remaining military brass from 5 allied species. The room smelled like ozone and fear. Admiral Hecto, some crusty Sevlin tactician who'd survived 6 wars and 1 assassination attempt, leaned forward. "We've reviewed your examples," he said, "and we've come to a consensus." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" He didn't blink. "We're suspending joint simulations indefinitely. Your kind is incompatible." I almost laughed. "Because we win too hard?" "Because you scare the oxygen out of the room," he said flatly. "Your victories have no rhythm, no restraint. You don't pause. You don't retreat. You adapt so fast, it looks like cheating." A Thessalian officer spoke next, soft-voiced, trembling. "You stitched your own comrade's leg back on with zip ties and kept moving. You boiled water with a flare gun. You once detonated your own base to trap the enemy inside with you." I shrugged. We were behind on rent. That didn't help. The translator glitched, trying to render sarcasm in 6 languages. One of the aides visibly shivered. "It's not just the methods," the ambassador whispered. "It's the mindset. You don't fear death. You flirt with it." I smiled, slow and sharp. "Death and I go way back." That was the moment I realized they weren't trying to learn from us anymore. They were trying to figure out how to contain us. The Cravenite general stood. "Effective immediately, human forces will be excused from all future multilateral combat exercises. You are not to be emulated. You are to be monitored." I nodded slowly. "Fair warning, we tend not to like leashes." No one laughed. As we stood to leave, one junior officer, a Zendari girl, no older than 20 in her cycles, looked at me like I'd just told her monsters were real. "Why do you fight like this?" she asked. "What's wrong with you?" I paused, turned back. "We weren't bred for war," I said. "We just learned it faster than anyone else. Because every century of peace we've ever had was paid for with 1,000 years of blood, and we remember all of it." The door shut behind us. Silence. Later that night, I checked the report logs. 2 more cadets had resigned, one filed for reassignment to a non-combat species. Another, a Thessalan, had requested asylum on Earth. Reason given? If you can't beat them, stand very far behind them. And me? I poured a drink, watched the sunrise from orbit, and waited for the next call. Because the galaxy didn't need us to start wars. It needed us to finish them.
And this is why aliens won't visit us. Not because we're violent, but because we're creative about it. Share this with someone who definitely detonate their own base for the plot.